Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Tables with your host, Rob Radley,
John Charles Ciccarelli,
James Burrows,
and Damien Hallwood.
Hello, and welcome to a second episode on the trot of Tales from the Tables, where we are missing Rob. So we are once again lying by the seat of our pants, and hoping this all turns out okay.
He's nearly finished. He's nearly finished Mass Effect 1, though, so he's making good progress.
Do we know that for a fact? Do we know that he's
so.
actually started? Damn it.
I don't think
We're going to get him, guys. We're going to get
He's
him.
just busy being a grown-up and doing grown-up things.
Welcome
which is
to the
really...
Mass Effect podcast.
He can't stop us now. This is the only recording we're giving him. It's all Mass Effect all the time.
Anybody who doesn't play Mass Effect and listens to our episode must hate us. They're like, oh god, they never shut up about this game.
Not this again.
That's Rob, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
So
yeah,
this
true.
again?
Accurate.
But if you're listening, you haven't
good
played
though.
Mass Effect. Why?
Why?
Surely at this point we've beaten you into submission, and you will capitulate and play it. No. So how has everyone been? Have we had good weekends and weeks up until this point?
Yeah. Good. Can't complain.
Emphatic.
Yeah, not too bad.
How's
our
your
house is now for sale.
makeover? Yeah.
It is for sale now. It is
Huzzah.
live. So we
Nice.
at some point can expect, hopefully, people to start coming and looking at our house and scrutinizing it.
That is exciting.
Judging.
Nice.
Yeah, we have to just keep on top of making sure it's scrutinizable.
Scrutinizable.
Yeah, so lots of that. Played a new sort of board-ish game, like a collectible card game. It was Star Wars, the deck building game.
Oh, how is it?
It was good. Yeah, really good. Really simple rules. By the first turn, I felt like I could tactically hold my own. So the rules are super simple. Nice theme. It's Empire versus Rebellion, although they are coming out with a Clone Wars version soon.
Nice.
And the cards were super thematic. Cards that you would expect to work together in synergy did. Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon, in my case. Yeah, really cool, really thematic. Lots of fun.
Greetings, fellow adventurers. Are you tired of using subpar tables for your epic tabletop quests?
Absolutely. We need something that matches the grandeur of our adventures.
Well, fear not, dear listeners. Allow us to introduce to you Robert Rose Carpentry. Established for 10 years as a specialist in crafting bespoke gaming tables that are as functional as they are beautiful.
built to precision with custom add-ons and exclusive features, 100% sustainable and environmentally friendly. Every inch of their gaming tables are made from reclaimed wood, then crafted into a solid masterpiece that will last aeons.
And here's the best part. As proud sponsors of Tales from the Tables, Robert Rose Carpentry are offering an exclusive 10% discount to all our listeners.
Imagine the thrill of transforming your dining table into a custom-built gaming experience for you, your friends, and your family to enjoy time and time again.
So don't wait any longer. Head over to www.robertrosecarpentry.com/tales from the tables and use the code ROLLDARK10 to claim your discount at checkout.
Craftsmanship, adventure, and savings. What more could you ask for? Thanks to Robert Rose Carpentry for supporting our podcast and enhancing our gaming experiences.
Absolutely. Now let's roll those dice and weave some epic tales.
Indeed. Until the next time, adventurers.
Really fast.
Have you guys checked out Acolyte yet? I haven't gotten a chance to see it.
Yes, I have, and I really, really enjoyed the first two episodes. I've not got round to the third, and I think fourth came out yesterday. I've been too busy to watch them. Plus, I've been preparing for House of the Dragon by binging.
I heard,
House of the Dragon season 1. So,
I've seen a little bit of it, and that combined with my impressions of the trailers and what I can expect from what I've heard of future episodes, think I will be watching The Boys.
There's a lot of good TV coming out. A lot of big name shows.
I don't think I'll be continuing with The Acolyte unless all of a sudden it shifts dramatically. Not the setting and the story that I was hoping it would be. So
yeah, all right, fair. I won't set my expectations that high. So
yeah, well, I didn't have any expectations going in. Really, I think that I didn't finish Ahsoka. I don't think.
No.
I think that might be the only one that I didn't finish, Star Wars wise. Although I've not watched all of Bad Batch either. I did start that and I didn't finish it.
Yeah. Gotta get back on that train.
I think some of it is just like life got in the way, and once I stopped watching something, I just sort of lose the mood for it. Then it's gone, and then other things fill that like that limited time that I have. And at the moment, that is Game of Thrones. I'm on an absolute World of Ice and Fire, Song of Ice and Fire, like binge. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to, I'm watching the original series. I'm watching House of the Dragon at the same time.
Oh wow! Okay.
I mean, we recently played the board game, which was maybe not the best experience.
What do you mean?
In the world.
What are you talking about? It was the best experience in the world. I won.
You did win. Sorry, for a second then I thought you just like it was such an awful experience. It sort of lobotomized itself from your memory.
it went back around full circle. It wasn't an awful experience. It was just it took a little bit longer than I think any of us were anticipating. The game itself is a lot of fun. It's exactly like that YouTube short where it's like, oh, this game doesn't make any sense. Do you want to play again? Yes, I do. Now that I get it, now that I know that I need wood.
You get the wood, you win the game.
I'm sorry, wood. But apart from that, I've been trying. I've just started X-Men 97, which is good. But a disgusting thing happened. Real life got in the way yesterday, and we had a holiday over here. We had Juneteenth, which meant I got to go to the beach yesterday, and I had to be social and not a nerd. Ugh. So I'm sunburnt and I have a lack of a voice, in case you haven't already picked up on that. So apologies to all of our listeners.
You just sound gruff and manly. You're all good.
Yeah. I'll just talk down here for the rest. Wait.
If I went to a nearby beach, which doesn't happen very often, I think I would probably come back looking like that poor soul in RoboCop after the chem thing falls on him.
Not that white. Good Lord. Yeah.
Lovely.
I got a little burnt, but that'll brown out in a little while. So yeah,
it's all good.
Good stuff.
Have either of you watched House of the Dragon? The first episode of House of the Dragon. It had quite a dramatic ending.
Not yet. I'm sorry, James. I'm failing you.
Between everything, I focused on The Boys. So
yeah, how's that? How's The Boys?
The Boys continues to be violent, shocking, and bitingly satirical.
There we go.
It is not hard to see what the focus of their satire is this season. It bears a lot of similarities to the sort of Trump rallies and the taking of the Capitol building and all that kind of kerfuffle that we had a while back, replacing Trump with Homelander in this case.
Right. But that means coherent and handsome, which is still better than what we got.
That guy doesn't have an Emmy yet for that role, I don't think. I still don't think he's got an Emmy for it, which is mind-boggling to me.
It's a shame. Anthony Starr's doing a really good job. He really is.
It's the kind of show that it is. It sucks that he probably won't either, if he hasn't already got one.
His performance is unstable and horrifying and charming when he needs to be, and honestly one of the best modern villains in a long time. He is so hateable, and yet so watchable.
Yeah,
absolutely reprehensible character, but so watchable.
Yeah, well written. Also, yeah,
there's just such a tension when he's on screen.
And that too, yeah. You never feel safe when he is on screen. At any moment, he could snap and kill a character, shock you beyond belief, or he could just smile through it with that fake "I'm okay" smile that he has. Yeah, brilliant.
How's anybody still alive? That's my question. Like, how does anybody, like, I know it's all set up through the story, and there's certain interests that are represented, but like, how is Huey still alive? How is Starlight still alive? How does he permit them to exist?
I think it's part of his need for love and attention. If no one's left to love him and give him attention, I think he would fall apart. That plus a few story MacGuffins just to make sure we don't lose our main cast.
Right. Yeah. Accurate.
I do really like Anthony Starr as an actor. I really liked him in Banshee. I thought that was a great series.
Right.
Had 4 like tight, good seasons. Finished. Series done. I'm sure it was 4.
Nice.
Pretty sure it was 4. But yeah, that was great. It's the first thing I think I saw Anthony Starr in, and I remember like watching an interview with him afterwards, and he said that all the fight scenes, which are incredible and brutal in Banshee, but had just ruined his joints to the point where he now can't do his own stunts anymore.
Oh no!
It just destroyed his body doing Banshee.
Wow.
Yeesh. What was Banshee about?
So he is a jewel thief that turns up to a small town where the sheriff, I can't remember if he kills the sheriff or someone else kills the sheriff, and he decides to take his identity and it becomes the sheriff of this
the sheriff
town. Yeah.
Nice.
I think he like meets him on the way to this small town where his ex lives, and the sheriff is killed, and so he decides that he will
to step in
to that role. And
nice.
it is excellent. It's got a great Amish villain, which is not a sentence you get to say very often.
That is very true. Awesome. Well, I'll have to check it out. Cool. Sounds really cool.
It is. Yeah, I think there's only 4 seasons, and I think there's only maybe 10 episodes a season. But
yeah. When we get through all the other shows we have to watch first.
Yeah. The incredible backlog that we have as just content is thrown at us 24/7 from.
I know. Why do we work, guys? Why do we have real jobs when we have this much nerd stuff to do? Unfair.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So
it's only getting worse.
Tell us, Damien.
Given this last week, it's only getting worse. So news segue, I suppose. There isn't a huge amount in terms of multiple stories, but we are drinking from the fire hydrant in terms of Dungeons and Dragons content. They have started a video series that is going to talk in depth about the Player's Handbook primarily, the revised Player's Handbook coming in a few short months' time, as well as touching on the other 2 books, the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual.
Mm-hmm.
But the focus currently is on the first book release, which is going to be the Player's Handbook. They have just over an hour-long video, an interview with Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford, breaking down all the new stuff from the book. And they are now starting a series of slightly shorter videos, sort of between 10 and 30 minutes long, diving into things like some of the new features in the book, as well as classes. We've had Fighter so far, a video on the Fighter, and we have the Paladin, which I believe is due to air at 5:00 this evening, UK time, being
nice.
The 20th of June at the time of recording. So
not to weed the nerds out from the football fans.
That's it.
Starts with 5 today.
I am well and truly weeded. I don't know anything about football. So there is so much to dive into that was brought up, even just in the hour-long Player's Handbook sort of special, that I have made copious notes on, that I think it would be simply too much to cover. We'd never get to our Tales of the Tables or any other part of the podcast. So, with that in mind, we have tentatively suggested a bonus episode that will focus entirely on previewing all of this content for the new revised books, given that it is such effectively a monumental moment in the D&D hobby. It is a brand new revised core system. It's 3 new books. It's the start of a sort of whole new era of Dungeons and Dragons off the back of probably inarguably their most successful era ever.
Right.
So it's a big discussion point, but I'll cover some of the broad strokes here. And obviously, if there's anything you guys want to sort of chip in on and talk about, we can. But we'll try and do a main episode that if you want to hear our thoughts on all of the content coming forward for revised,
broken down bit by bit, so that
broken
you hear
down
everything.
bit by bit, what we love, what we hate, all that stuff. So mostly, as I said, player's handbook information. What isn't new, we know they're going to be big. All 3 of these books are going to be big books, hundreds of pages of content. One thing that Chris and Jeremy said was the design philosophy behind these 3 books is that it's actually 1,000 to 1,200 page book split across 3 books because that's impractical. That they want them to be completely unified in terms of how they're laid out and how they work together. So the player's handbook, some of the sort of key things I took away, and if you want to watch the video, it is on their official YouTube channel, as well as all the others. And sprinkled throughout the video is lots of new artwork from the books. Sometimes complete, sometimes what looks like grayscale concept, which will presumably have become full color pages now in the book. And some examples of the layout of the book, although a lot of the content is blurred out, so you can't copy all the information and learn it before it's time to be revealed.
Of course.
So
let's get our editors on that. Make sure we unblur that as quick as possible.
Indeed.
See what it is.
So we have lots of new feats, new equipment, new crafting rules, which weren't in the Unearthed Arcana. Crafting also goes into crafting magical items. Magical items in the player's handbook will focus on things like healing potions and things like that, sort of lesser items. Sure. It will be expanded in the Dungeon Master's Guide to a much more complex system of larger scale magic items. So crafting is getting a whole overhaul, brand new rules.
That's bag of holding bombs, anyone? Everyone's going to make bags of holding bombs.
The split makes sense as well, because players, especially at early levels, they're going to need to know or want to know how to craft things like health potions, other potions, and other and similar things. Whereas, opposed to the dungeon master, if you want to set up a quest for them to create a very powerful magical item, it makes sense to have split it off like that and have a separate set of rules for that.
Sure, yeah, makes sense.
Nice idea. And crafting comes up a lot for me, at least.
Yeah, I wonder if there'll be components for like all the magical items in the DMG, or so you can break it down into components that players can assemble to try and create those specific items.
That would be cool. I don't know, but that would be cool.
As a sort of quick side tangent, do you find crafting enjoyable in game time, or do you sort of leave that to in between sessions? Like, do you really take the time per session to work with an individual player where the others are just kind of watching if they're not that interested in crafting? Because that's always very top of mind with me with shopping episodes, and sometimes people want to go on about crafting, especially if they're playing like an artificer or a leather worker or someone with a smithing background, and they're like, hey, I'm trying to make my set a full plate. Can I scavenge the stuff that we just killed off these bodyguards and make a whole set for X character? And well, I don't know, Damien, how do you, since it comes up a lot for you, how do you handle it?
Usually, especially with the artificer, usually it is a case of downtime. Hey, could I have crafted this in the time, with the components, etc. That tends to not take up too much game time. However, on a Monday, I do run Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, a great third-party adventure, and in that adventure, part of the character's journey is crafting items. That's built into the book, specifically magic ones, and they get a resource to do that, which gives a list of components that they need to acquire and time taken to build the items, which is a really nice sort of hands-off, easy to follow approach for me. So it's more ingrained, but it's not taking up time. And I'm hoping these crafting rules are similar to that for the core books. What about you, James?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's mostly off out of session, like in between, or if they've got downtime. Hey, this is what I want to make. Yes, that can be done. But if it's a very specific or very powerful item, they will need. I would have it so they would need specific components that they would have to go out and try and obtain, and that would probably be part of a quest.
Yeah.
And if at all possible, I'd work it into the main storyline quest or whatever it is that they were doing.
Right.
So it didn't need to take away from what the other characters are doing. I mean, ideally, if you can find a way to work it into another character's backstory, that the items they have are owned by someone they've known from the past, and that's a pretty cool way of working it into, because then you get to sort of tie those two together.
If you get a chance, James, I'd absolutely look up how it works in Odyssey, because it sounds just like that. All of the items are deeply ingrained into the character's backstory, and where they find them, and or if they can't find them, where they can find the components to craft them, and who can help them craft, and where they can. There is a specific place they can do it, and the speed at which it's crafted can be affected by other things as well, like who you can hire to help craft and those type of things. So I'd definitely check it out if you get a chance.
Cool.
If you like that idea.
No, kind of a weird tangent on it, but that kind of sounds like a good idea for Vecna in a way, right?
Yeah,
doesn't it?
It does. Speaking of wanting to find rules easily, the Player's Handbook will have a rules glossary, and a large portion of the rules in the main body of the book will go into some detail, and then if they need further expansion, we'll point you to the rules glossary.
That's a great idea.
Taking up page space, which I thought was a good idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Love that.
What sounds
all
like
the rules in one place.
Yeah. What sounds like, this isn't new, I don't think, but what sounds like about a third of the book will be taken up by magic and spells. Over 100 pages, 400 plus spells in the book.
What do we have now in the vanilla PHP?
I didn't have a chance to look that up.
I'll check. I'm sure I can easily find that.
You know,
but that's new spells.
I'm gonna have to get new spell cards for all of these.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's not just the books you're rebuying, James. Now it's the cards too.
Yeah.
Older spells have been revised. Newer spells introduced. Spells from other books like Tasha's and Xanathar's coming into the book. So it's a lot of spell content.
Silvery Barbs is now mandatory. Every character will have it just going in. Any spellcast, even if you're not a spellcaster, fighters will have Silvery Barbs.
Spell.
Yeah, I quit. I'm out.
So this came up. Let's get through the news, and we're going to jump back to Silvery Barbs, because I would love to talk about it with you guys and pick your brains. Even though I already know how you feel about it. But yeah, go ahead, Damien.
Continuing skimming over my copious notes, 48 subclasses is the number they gave in the Player's Handbook. So that's a huge amount of scope to play with.
Yeah.
There is a updated and improved creature appendix. So anybody like a Beastmaster, a Druid, anybody summoning a familiar will have a much improved list of things that they can go to find that information, and have stat blocks available for them in that book to not have to chase those across other books. They did say there will be some instances, some of the Druid classes, not all of the wild shape options will be there, but there will be enough to get them started and then point them in the direction of the monster manual for additional things.
Current PHP has those stat blocks in the PHP. Like, they're not, I mean, the basic animal forms. Not that many beasts show up in the monster manual.
No, it sounds like this. They've basically tried to tighten it up a little bit and make sure more is available, as well as having available stat blocks where spells such as summoning spells are, and specific options of what can be summoned, so that there isn't any question taking up game time as to what it is you can summon and where you can find its stats.
Pseudo dragons all around. Okay, yeah.
So essentially, what I've learned here is I'm going to need to buy spell cards. I'm going to need to buy more wild
summons cards. Yep, and minis.
Yep.
Summon minis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the 48 subclasses, 3 of them are brand new. They were named as well: the Circle of the Sea Druid, the College of Dance Bard.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the Path of the World Tree Barbarian.
Ooh.
That sounds cool.
It does.
The Norse one.
Yggdrasil.
I do like
the
Sea Druid. I think that would be very campaign specific, I imagine, but awesome. Give me like a
pirate druid. I'm hearing pirate druid.
Give me a cleric druid, Cthulhu worshipping hybrid. That's what I'm looking for here. Who can transform into octopuses?
Yeah, it does sound very cool. But my home players, have a strict no ocean policy, under the understanding that it restricts a large portion of the monster manual to not be able to be used. We don't go to the sea.
Take anything
folks.
and give it a swim speed. That's what I say.
So what I did was have a portion of their campaign where a portion of the realm of water had spilled into reality and created a sort of underwater large cube space of just water that had taken over the land that they had to get through. Ha 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 ha. And filled it with sharks and sahagin and all kinds of nasty things.
Amazing.
They also said that some of the subclasses are going to be completely ground up recreated to the point that they might as well be new. One of the examples they gave that I know will be, in theory, something you will like the sound of, JC, because we've talked about it before. The Elemental Warrior for the Monk sounds like it's been completely redesigned. So if you're looking for your Avatar
The Last Airbender fix,
hopefully, because it's been completely revised, it will be a bit closer to that fantasy. I'm
here for it.
In block capitals and circled, Bearded Beholder versus Behir, because they showed a piece of artwork that you just simply must check out on the video, which was a bearded beholder with a Behir.
Cool.
And it was awesome. And I think one of the eyes that the beholder had was on the end of a staff rather than on the end of one of its tentacles.
Whoa. That sounds interesting.
It was such a cool piece of artwork that I just had to note it.
That's great. I gotta go find that now.
Feet. There are 75 feats in the book, and they are also categorized. So there are feats specifically designed to be taken at character creation.
Mm-hmm.
There are epic boon feats, which are taken at 19th level. So they're actually categorizing feats. It doesn't mean that you can't take other feats, with the exception, of course, you can't take a 19th level feat as a starting feat. But going the other way, if you want to not take an epic boon feat and take a feat from the rest of the list, you can. But Jeremy Crawford assures that you won't want to. Epic boon feats are designed to be just exactly that. Cool. Inspiration has changed. It is now called Heroic Inspiration, and rather than be restricted to advantage, it is now a reroll of anything, any dice. So if you want to reroll
the popular homebrew rule,
if you want to reroll healing dice, damage, spell saves, all those types of things, you can, rather than just have advantage. They actually specifically called that out, JC, saying like we've taken some common homebrew rules and made them canon. One of them was drinking
a potion as a bonus action. I did see that.
Now
clip.
A bonus action.
Yes, thanks, Jeremy Crawford. Yeah,
the world rejoices. I mean, without going into too much detail, that's the broad strokes of most of what they pointed out.
That's cool. I'm sure there's a lot to go through, so yeah, we'll do that episode.
The big one that they've dedicated an entire video to is weapon mastery.
Yeah, I heard about this.
This does sound cool. So weapon mastery, rather than just being the ability to add your proficiency to proficient weapons, instead every weapon has a weapon mastery ability that is only available to you to use if you have weapon mastery for that weapon. My
question is, how do you get mastery?
They are
something you earn?
Class specific generally. However, they've also created some feats to allow it, so that it doesn't stop spellcasters from being able to be proficient with certain weapons. Because in general, they can still use them. Weapons are always functional. They just have extra gubbins that they can do if you have mastery with them. And of course, classes like the fighter will be completely specialized on weapon mastery to the point that they get multiple masteries. They can swap their masteries out at higher levels.
So no longer will a pike and a glaive do the exact same thing. It'll now have uniqueness to each. Yeah.
There looks like there's a kind of a set list of things that the weapon masteries do. The things called sap, graze, topple, vex, and a raft of others, which do things like push enemies a certain distance away on a hit. Graze is an ability for martial characters like barbarians where if they miss, they can still do a small portion of damage, suggesting they've just grazed the enemy rather than completely missed.
Love it.
Vex,
dagger does nick.
Vex to set up your next attack to have advantage. So a rogue with Vex using a short sword can set themselves up with a strike to give themselves advantage and then come in with the sneak attack on the next turn. It also is designed to be very tactical. Very, very tactical. And when you combine this with the Battle Master and the maneuvers, you can start getting into some incredibly tactical and epic strategy in combat. But it sounds like all of these weapon mastery abilities are quite simple. It's just push 10 feet, gain advantage on next attack, do a little bit of damage if you miss, so that it isn't complicated to try and use in play.
I've been actually working on something exactly like this for a long time. I've been sort of thinking about how to take weapons. This is an example of something I would incorporate into a game that's already 5e, right? I'd immediately say, yeah, we're taking weapon mastery. We'll find a way to work it in. If you don't, we'll add the feats. And if you're a great axe user now, you'll be able to take the cleave ability, which says if you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can make a second attack against a creature within 5 feet that is also within your reach. When you hit with the second attack, you can roll your weapon's damage, but you don't add the ability modifier. That's great. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, clever stuff that makes martial characters a bit more interesting than just I attack, which has been a big criticism that I've heard over the years of people getting a little frustrated with I attack, I miss, there goes my turn.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to call it again, very 4th edition. It's coming back around, folks.
That. Yeah, I know.
It's weirdly, coming back around. Everybody hated it, and now it's coming back around. Not everybody,
they always
you know
do.
What I mean.
Yeah.
Very quick on the Dungeon Master's Guide. They touched on that a little. 5 short sample adventures in the book, off the back of the How to Build an Adventure chapter. So it's the idea being, this is how you build an adventure, and here's some examples of that in play to show you it fully constructed. The same theory behind campaign creation with having Greyhawk as a complete campaign setting. Both the city of Greyhawk and the surrounding region, you get a poster map with the book, and that is the same philosophy. This is how to create a campaign, and here's one in action so you can see how it works. Lots of treasure, 300 plus treasure and magical items in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Nice.
Lots of new, including they said some of the magical items from the cartoon will be making an appearance in the book.
Cool.
Love that they're doubling down on this cartoon.
They're doing something with it, aren't they? They're doing something with the cartoon.
Bring it back.
Lots of tracking sheets will be spread throughout the book and will be available to download as well separately. Everything from campaign and session prep to magical items dished out to your players and everything in between. Lots and lots of referenceable tracking sheets. Chapter 3 sounds quite interesting. The DM Toolbox, where they have consolidated all rules such as traps, poisons, curses, hazards, all those things that were spread out across multiple portions of the book, and now in one place as a sort of toolbox for you to just pick at and find all those rules in one place, which I thought was
nice.
Clever, a good way of doing it. One thing I really like, they've added a lore glossary. So for new players or players who might not necessarily be fully up on all of the lore, will have a place to go and get a brief overview of what certain phrases and words mean and names, who they are. Some of the examples they gave was some players might not know what adamantine is in D&D, might not know what mithril is in D&D. Where does it come from? What is it? So it's a sizable list of glossary items based on characters, places, and things within the world so that new people can get acclimatized to what those things mean in play.
Can I just say, it's funny that you brought this up and mentioned adamantine specifically, because I was going to say earlier when you were talking about crafting systems and even relationship to characters, I think the most fun crafting quest I've ever done was the adamantine crafting quest from Baldur's Gate 3. It felt like such a rabbit hole, random side quest to go down, but it had epic consequences at the end, and you got a really cool item out of it. And you could choose which one too. So that I feel is what would make crafting interesting for me. At the risk of course, derailing or distracting from a main story. But I love that.
Well, it's less a tale from the table and more a tale of DM incompetence on my part. But I decided to allow my players to adamantine coat some +3 plate that they had. And I never hit them again.
Very strong.
Yeah.
Bye.
Wow.
Well, I mean, in 5e, the only property that adamantine has is that you can't be crit, right?
Yeah.
But
it
and then
destroys
if you do it
objects
on
too,
weapons, right? And if you coat a weapon with it, it deals double damage on structures, I think, or it's a guaranteed crit. It might be the rule. I forget. That came out in I think Xanathar's or Tasha's.
It's around there,
yeah, but the lore of adamantine is so strong, at least in Forgotten Realms. I'm not sure about Greyhawk and other settings. That, I had a player who thirsted over adamantine for so long, and I don't know that I ever gave it to him. No, I'm kidding.
Well, it got to the point where I could only hit them if I crit because of a multitude of other ridiculousness that I gave them and how they applied their stats and etc. And then I gave them this armor.
Well, it's like that combo with Bladesinger Wizards now that they can have like 34 AC going in or something like that, right?
Well, that's actually kind of a nice segue because the monster manual is the next one that they touched on.
Yes,
and it sounds like on that note, because higher level players, if they know what they're doing, can be really hard to hit, really hard to hit. It's guys, it's just as frustrating as when you can't hit a monster because it has a high AC. It's the same.
I would argue more frustrating as a DM, especially if you're doing one monster against 5, because the time between your turn waiting for your monster if it spends its like almost sometimes its only turn being completely ineffective. One, it makes the combat kind of boring for everyone because that wasn't a threat. It whiffed its attack and did absolutely nothing, showed nothing. It may as well have not been there. You walked in, it missed you, you killed it.
Yeah.
Combat over.
Well, it says here that then they're keeping all challenge ratings the same on monsters with a view that you can still play the previous adventures, so it won't mean having to rewrite the whole thing because the CRs have changed. However, they've reconsidered what those CRs mean. They've considered some monsters in terms of perhaps they didn't get the CR right first time. We'll see how that goes. They didn't call anything too specific out there, but they did say that high challenge rating monsters will become a lot more deadly for their challenge rating. They've said that before, and they've repeated it here. So I'm hoping, because I'm sure you'll agree, and Vecna comes up again, high level monsters can often be a little too easy if you don't tinker with them. A little too easy for players to beat. In theory, I can see why you might think they look deadly, but a very clever group of players in combination will find a way around a lot of that very quickly.
And sometimes depending on the situation, they don't even require cleverness to do. The sheer amount of firepower and just stacking damage, especially as the group gets larger, is exponential. It's not it's incredible. So I'll save it for our Tales from the Table segment to talk about my first Vecna encounter. But we'll get there. Go ahead.
Not much else. It does say there's over 500 monsters in the book, 75 of which are new. It's pointed out some of the ones we've talked about before that's very exciting. The Blob of Annihilation for a epic level ooze.
I love that. Arch Hag.
The Arch Hag for an epic level hag. The Elemental Juggernaut.
Nice.
The Colossus Construct.
Nice.
Things that don't necessarily already have a epic level version, getting epic level versions. Apparently there will be a new vampire that's more powerful than the sort of higher tier vampire that we have now.
They have Vampire Warlock, right.
As well as lower level ones too.
Because if I ever want to use a vampire stat block, like a vampire lord or like the pinnacle top level vampire, I just use Strahds and tweak it slightly. That's what I've done.
Yeah.
So, I'll be interested to see the comparison between those two, like Strahds and your new King Vampire stat block.
They need to make stronger werewolves. I've always maintained that. Their lycanthropes are unfortunately very weak.
They didn't call it out, but I agree.
Yeah. I think, we obviously have a better version of a werewolf with the Loup-Garou from Ben Richten's guide, but it still needs to be more powerful.
It would be fun to see.
I have a homebrew rule that I've been kind of tweaking and toying with. I don't know if you guys will agree with this. In terms of lycanthropy, I built a whole bunch of extra rules around it because me taking away a player's character sheet has never been fun for anybody. So like if you get infected and you don't cure it within a certain amount of time, the DM controls your character. I'm like, no, that should not be how it works. But that all being said, I also have a homebrew rule where they can only be damaged by silver weapons, not magic weapons. They can be damaged by magic, but not magic weapons specifically.
Interesting.
So elemental stuff, firebolts, your typical spells, that's all fine. Eldritch blasts, whatever, that's fine. But even enchanted weapons, +1s and anything else, won't hurt a lycanthrope unless it has been treated with silver. And I think that makes enough of it's a small difference, but enough of a difference that these lycanthropes feel like real threats in the world, especially if silver is scarce and presumably your heroes are one of the few going around with a lot of magic in it. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's the danger, isn't it, when you look at lycanthropes, because they can become player characters can become lycanthropes, and so I imagine the trick is making sure you can make challenging and interesting lycanthropes
around the other way, right?
Balancing it so that players who become them don't all of a sudden outshine all the other players and
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. But
very
that
tricky.
Leads back into my extended homebrew rules for lycanthropy in the game. You don't immediately become a full-blown lycanthrope. You go through stages.
Yeah.
And at first you have like resistance to non-silvered weapons until you do many steps and a certain amount of time passes, and then you're a more full-blown lycanthrope and you gain certain immunities and vulnerabilities and such. Yeah.
We need to talk, JC. I have a fun campaign setting idea that centers around that, and I've been thinking about lycanthrope rules, so we should talk.
There you go.
Yeah. So lots of monsters. They've said that it'll be, as before, enemies and allies, and there will be more NPC groups. They called out things such as pirates, performers, and so on, and they're grouping those better into specific sort of factions.
That's
maybe
cool.
The wrong word, but grouped NPCs, because they say they know they get a lot of use by DMs.
Yeah. You know how you mentioned epic level monsters from different types or categories, right? The epic level ooze, the epic level hag, the epic level, which is a fae, the epic level vampire, undead. I feel like we need that for mundane humanoids. I feel like we need ranks of mundane humanoids. Things like the guard, right? Yes, you can upgrade them to a veteran stat block, which is often done in some adventures, and then they usually leave it at that.
Yeah.
And that's your most powerful guard is a 54 hit point, 18 AC thing. where I'm like, obviously we love tinkering with stat blocks, so we do it ourselves, but I've always been like, what about a royal guard, or a guard extraordinaire, whatever you want to call it, like something a much more experienced and deadly guard, something that your murder hobos that are now running around 18th level around the city can't just easily wipe through, right? What about do they get pack tactics and things like that? Do they get feet? I've always thought was cool. What about if it's a halberdier that can make a sentinel attack when you come within its reach? That would be cool.
Yeah.
Same with cultists. I'm tired of the CR1 cult fanatic being the highest cultist there is, and then the only way, and as Damien I know knows because of us both looking at Vecna, their upgrade of that is the mage stat block, which is a 40 hit point thing, and I'm like, that lasts seconds.
Level 10 characters, yeah. I mean, that's
at level 10 seconds, yeah. So we need a higher level cultist, and they can't all be archmages because that would be silly. And besides, the cultist stat block is more clerical based, so things like that, likewise with a pirate, likewise with a bandit, likewise with a priest. There's no real good high level priest stat block vanilla in PHP/Monster Manual. You kind of have to make up your own, or pick an NPC.
Yeah. Hopefully these updates will cover that.
Maybe we'll see. I'm excited.
Yeah, I hope they do. What I've tended to do is make essentially PC like player characters on D&D Beyond, and just use that for. So I had a set of King's Guard, like knights defending the king in one of my campaigns.
Right. And we have a champion stat block. You could reskin that as a guard, but again, that's reskinning, So anyway, that's just my thoughts. But that's cool, Damon.
Yeah, lots of information. Some fun stuff about the fighter. Definitely, if you're interested in fighters, check out the video. They call out the abilities that they get at like stepped levels, 5th, 9th, 13th, 19th. As well as the redesign of Second Wind and how that can now be used both in and out of
combat. Wait, tease us. What does it do? How does it work?
So Second Wind, it sounds like they're going to have access to Second Wind more readily.
Okay.
They will also be able to use it to do more things than just what it currently does, including using a Second Wind. Where did I find it here?
Increased movement by any chance?
Yes, there is a allow you to move half speed. They call that tactical shift at 5th level. Allows you to use it to move half speed.
There's that 4E language creeping back in.
Exactly. So yeah, as you level, Second Wind becomes more powerful and can do more things for you.
That's really
so
cool.
You can use it to add to other types of checks as well. You can add to sort of social checks as part of Second Wind as well, because they've said that they want to make even the martial characters like Barbarian and Fighter and so on have rules that are playable outside of combat that are meaningful.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
that's a good design point. Yeah.
Check out that video. It's specific to the Fighter. Also, on that note, and kind of linked, Psionic is back in a big way. All the Psionic classes are back in the player's handbook. And they're doing the Paladin later today, the 20th of June. So that video will be up not long after you presumably hear this.
Tune in for that.
We could go into an epic amount more detail on that, but we won't for now.
Not here. In another private episode.
Not here.
Sweet. That's a lot of exciting stuff. Anything else in the news that is nearly as significant?
Not really. I thought it would be fun to just point out that DC20 is now at $1.6 million with 11 days to go on Kickstarter.
Wow. Jesus.
And Erevan's Guide to Death and Beyond, which is the one I was absolutely swooning over, is over €1 million with 8 hours to go.
Wow. That's crazy.
So both of them have been smashing through stretch goals and making all of the money. So
wow. Badass. Very cool. There is, I think, something I've been wanting to mention because it's becoming the underdog of this, and as it does, I get more excited by it, just to be able to support it. There is another book that's coming out for 5th edition, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it will be the last book that comes out for 5th edition, and it's called Quests from the Infinite Staircase, which is coming out, I believe, let's take a look, in July. I think it was like July 15th or something of that sort. Let's see where it says. It says coming soon, launching in 26 days, 1 hour, 48 minutes, and 35 seconds. July 16th is the date. So this is a fun book. I'm sure some of you have already heard about it. An adventure for 1st to 13th level characters, obviously using the current 5th edition materials, basically taking older adventures from previous editions of D&D and rehashing them for 5e, updated artwork, some updated mechanics, updated stat blocks, all that jazz. Looking really cool. At the center of it all is this djinn who controls the Infinite Staircase, which is a way to sort of traverse between realms and enter places where you're not normally able to enter via his little back door sort of policy. Overall, I think this looks really cool. I don't know the adventures very well. I didn't get into pre-4E adventures very much. Most of what I played in Dungeons and Dragons history was homebrew before I got to 5th edition. But they have things like the Lost City. In this introductory adventure, explore a buried ziggurat to uncover the remnants of a once glorious kingdom. And when a star falls, retrieve a fallen star and defend the power of prophecy against those with malicious intent in this cosmic adventure. And that sounds lovely, but the image is what draws me in, because it's a griffin and a nest with a whole bunch of baby griffins fighting over themselves right behind it. And I'm like, that's adorable. Yeah, so lots of cool artwork. Damien, I just came across this. Pharaoh. Delve into, that's the name of the adventure that's going to be featured. Delve into an ancient tomb as you seek to lift curses and bring peace to the ghost of a long dead pharaoh. Oh, you cowards. You use the Mummy Lord stat block, you cowards. Don't give us ghosts.
Just very quickly on that note, because you mentioned about its release date, I should also point out you can now pre-order all of the new revised books on D&D Beyond, and they're doing physical and digital bundles for each book and the full set, which, looking at it right now, is $179 for all 3 core books, physical and digital.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but not with the special covers that we all love so much.
But not with the special covers, no. Which sound like in person they will be something to behold from what these videos were saying. Do you like that? Yeah, it sounds like they have soft touch, foil cover, the gold pops when the light catches it. They're designed to look like books, was what the art director said. They're designed to look like tomes, which is very much what Jack said when he was on with us. They are designed to look more like books than rule books.
Right.
It's very cool. I think they are sort of nailing that.
Yeah. So, we'll see.
But yes, that I haven't looked at quests from the Infinite Staircase very much, and some of those sound great. I do know I think I've read Lost City, the original. It sounds very familiar. But yeah, some of those sound really cool.
I do like a djinn. I think they're very cool.
Yeah, I don't use genies enough in our games. Yeah, no. I'd like to.
But I love a monkey's paw situation where the players ask for a thing and then, you give them something entirely different.
Right.
Not entirely different.
I feel like you like the wording of the spell wish that you make liberal use of, which I will use as a awkward and jarring segue back into Silvery Barbs. Speaking of spells that we want to talk about, so this came up recently. I think Rob prompted us in our collective chat. What spell would you ban? What singular spell would you get rid of in D&D 5e if you could? And a lot of people had different responses. Mine came up, and other people I know said it before me. Silvery Barbs, which is a spell that came out in Tasha's, or was it some other book? I think it might have actually been Strixhaven.
Yeah,
it was Strixhaven, wasn't it? Ridiculous. Sorry. So for those of you who don't know, Silvery Barbs. So let me see if I can actually pull up the official description of the spell. All right, so I have the description here. Silvery Barbs, first level enchantment. Casting time 1 reaction which you take when a creature you can see within 60 feet of you succeeds on an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw. Range 60 feet, components verbal only. You magically distract the triggering creature and turn its momentary uncertainty into encouragement for another creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. You can then choose a different creature you can see within range. You can choose yourself. The chosen creature has advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw it makes within 1 minute. The creature can be empowered by only one use of this spell at a time. It's on the Bard, Sorcerer, and Wizard spell lists. I hate Peter Pan. I hate this spell. Sorry, hook reference for those of you who remember.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts before I delve into mine? What do you guys think of this?
Thing as a DM, just the joy of rolling a natural 20 and then just immediately, re-roll that. And you can do it every turn.
Or likewise, imagine if you gave this to your spellcasters and use it against the players.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
screw you.
It goes back to what James was saying about hard to hit players, because if you do then finally get that nat 20, and I call this an anti-drama spell.
Yes.
Part of a monster hitting you or succeeding on a saving throw is the drama of it. Yes, players want to win, and there is a whole subsect of players who play the game to be a game and to sort of defeat the odds and min-max and defeat the monsters and not set off any of the traps and make it a complete success all round. But Silvery Barbs takes away a lot of drama for me. It is because it's first level. At higher level, I know you might say, well, it uses a spell slot. Yeah, at first level, but when you sort of 5th, 10th, 15th level, a first level spell slot is inconsequential. This can be used over and over and over and over again, and will shut down your big boss very quickly. Because at that level, your players have high ACs, as we've just talked about. They have reactions such as Counterspell and all these things they can do to already put the kibosh on your monster that gets one or a handful of attacks a full round.
Right.
Add this into the mix, and you're done. I think if there was a save, maybe it would be okay. But because it's just automatically succeeds, it's really frustrating to have it used over and over again in a combat, especially if things are already like your dice rolls have already been like a bit poor for a while. You finally get a hit and it's taken away. Like say, it takes all the drama away from a confrontation. If it's already going their way, it makes it an incredibly safe, tame fight. And if it is going against them, I feel like that's probably the only real situation where, okay, we have been battered here. I need to use Silvery Barbs or my character's in real trouble. Yeah. That is not, in my experience, when it is used. It's used as like a, no, you didn't. I got this, the boss got this hit in. It's not like, you can tell it's not going to kill them in one hit. They've not really had that much damage done to them. And it's just like, no, you didn't. Roll again.
Yeah. That's, I think. Go ahead.
Sorry, JC. I was just say because it's reroll everything as well. It's not just like attack rolls. Then combine it with spells that completely debilitate an enemy. The one that comes immediately to mind is something like Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which debilitates a monster for rounds potentially.
Hold person, hold monster.
The paralyzed conditions. Banishment. Banishment. Combine it with those, and immediately, not only have you forced a reroll, which is quite powerful, you've potentially forced a success of a very powerful spell like Banishment or similar that completely removes the threat. You know, it doesn't just neuter their turn, it neuters them as a thing entirely. If I think you're right, James, in that if there was a way to make the spell a much more resource heavy, get out of jail free card that wasn't so readily available, it wouldn't be as egregious as it is. If it was this perhaps linked to a specific class at high level, or something that makes it a one-time use, get out of jail, Hail Mary, for the drama of it. But because it is so readily available to players and sorcerers using using it when they can just gain new spell slots with sorcery points and just keep getting it back.
You're only limited by the amount of reactions you're getting per round. I think that the thing that bothers me the most, mechanically, it's poorly designed. It has big pitfalls, and it's just as terrible. We're mostly thinking as DMs here, but imagine if you're a player and you score your natural 20, and even if it's not a crit, you finally hit a hard to hit monster, or you pull off a special check in the middle of combat, you're grappling something before he can escape back underwater or something like that, and then suddenly your DM just goes, actually, no, re-roll that. And then you get, what happens if you've been rolling like junk all night, and then suddenly you get a halfway decent roll that means you succeeded something, and Silvery Barbs is used against you? You would hope that your DM has a little bit more, patience and generosity than that they won't ruin your night by doing so. But you can't always rely on that. You don't know what kind of game you're going to be getting into. But what really grinds my gears about this is that there's nothing to this spell. It's not, what is it? How do you explain this working in world? The title, the name of it is the only thing that gives you any hint as to what it actually either does or looks like. Silvery Barbs. So what is that? Just magically conjured out of the air? You see these barbed talons stop a person? There's no, it is a purely mechanics spell. There is no flavor to this, and there's no inventiveness. I like to describe my spells. And when a monster hits you, or you hit a monster, especially if it's a big thing like a crit, you take that time to be like, you see his claws, and while you're distracted with the goblin on your left, the Burbalang impales you right through the center. You feel your spleen shift to the side. And then Silvery Barbs isn't a divination power. It just kind of happens.
I don't understand how it's an enchantment either. It doesn't
right, it's an enchantment spell. What? Yeah, it's not a divination spell. So, because it's distracting the creature, so it's enchanting, but it happens after it's already rolled / succeeded. After it's succeeded specifically. It's got no lore or description to it, and that, I think, makes it just such a boring, yet you have to take it because it's that good if it's on the table option. This is the only spell in the entire game I ban outright.
Yeah, it's not something that I have banned. And actually, someone said in our Roll Dark chat what they started doing. I can't remember who it was, so apologies for that. But essentially, they just started announcing that as a hit, and not saying anything about a crit, and then waiting to see if they're going to Silvery Barbs it, and then no, okay, well, it was a crit, so it's doing crit damage. You decided not to Silvery Barbs it. And that's how they've got around, specifically for it to be crits. But it doesn't really fix the problem of if you've just been rolling awfully all night.
Right.
Oh no, you've done it again. And like, if you wanted to, I don't like to be the DM who like lies about his dice rolls, but that's essentially the only way around this. If you're trying to like force a story moment or trying to make the combat more deadly, is just lie and be like, okay, yeah, I've rolled again. Oh, well, it's not a crit, but it's a 19, so it's still going to hit.
Right.
And I don't enjoy doing that. I do like to mostly let the dice sort of
tell the story.
And tell the story.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to make this a Silvery Barbs podcast, but but I got my gripe out of the way, so I'm satisfied. But
Yeah.
add us in Discord if you like. Let us know what you guys think either of this or what spell or maybe even feature you would prefer not to exist in your current edition of D&D, or either as a player or as a DM. So
Stunning Strike.
let
Oh,
us know.
sorry, what?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're not wrong. You should only be able to attempt that once per turn. That's my philosophy on that. But I allow it.
That would be what.
It's like, I attack 6 times in a row. Oh, and I'm now a fighter subclass, so I use action surge or a fighter multiclass. Each one of these, I've got the key points for it because I'm level 16 now. I'm going to try Stunning Strike
on every single one.
No. Yeah. Until it works.
I want to make that many con saves.
Yeah, it's like, how many legendary resistances you gotta have? 3, 5 max. Okay, no problem.
I even prefer the slow death punch thing to it. But yeah, I would. Silvery Barbs is more annoying than my big Stunning Strike.
What about you, Damien? What's your second one? What else don't you like?
I honestly can't think of another spell that I dislike as much as that one. There are plenty of spells that are frustrating when they go off. You know, Banishment is one.
Banishment's a big one. I think you could easily fix Banishment just by giving them a repeated saving throw at the end of every turn. So it's not a guaranteed minute / breaking concentration thing.
Yeah, when it's gone thing. And like I say, when you've got a character with a really high save DC, or you've got a character with Silvery Barbs, it can make the odds of succeeding at Banishment very high. And it's a very, again, anticlimactic way of dealing with a big threat.
Do you guys ever get your players circling around in the spot where it left, all taking readied actions and putting stuff on the ground and stuff like that?
And that's if it comes back. If you've got a multi-dimensional thing that's gone, then it's gone. And you either fudge a reason why it belongs in this plane of existence, or it doesn't come back. It's gone.
Right. Yeah. I've always thought that it should get a saving throw, but I especially like too that it's incapacitated while it's been banished to the demiplane, so it can't even ready an action for when it returns, right? Because then it would ready some sort of, hopefully if it has like a teleportability or at least a misty step or something of that sort. But nope, it's incapacitated, so it can't take readied actions. It can't ready anything.
Yeah, like plane shift or something. If it has access to plane shift and can just try and come back, but
more my players. Nope.
Incapacitated.
Yeah, which effectively means you can't design solo encounters. You can't design a solo boss monster encounter if you're dealing with a group that comes in with these weapons, right? With Silvery Barbs stacked to the galores and banishments and all these other no fun allowed button spells and abilities, because they're going to need something to keep them occupied while you hopefully are waiting for your boss monster to come back or succeed or get out of their stun if they're stun locked or something. So it's, I don't know, it's intense.
I think my second pick, not for a spell that I want gone, just that I want reworked slightly, is Leomund's Tiny Hut. Because the amount of times I've had players go into the hut, shoot, like lean half out, shoot, or go out, shoot, go back in, because only the caster can't do that.
Leave the hut.
The caster sits in the hut because he can't leave the hut, and everyone else just takes turns going outside, shooting the creatures, and then back in. And I know it's a minute casting time, but it means that pretty much any nighttime encounter that I want to do where stuff is going to be approaching the party, it's pointless, because if I planned a combat for this, there's no point.
Yeah, that's when you look at burrowing creatures and you reinforce the fact that it's a hemisphere or a dome.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Dome. Yeah.
Right. And does the dome include a floor is the question that I got asked in one campaign. I was like, well, probably, but I don't know. No, actually, the best way I ever dealt with a Leomund's Tiny Hut abuser was they were traveling in a tundra, and when they woke up after being safe the entire night and several nights of having done so, they were buried under about 10 or 12 feet of snow from an overnight blizzard. And it's a set duration of 8 hours. So the minute that 8 hours was up, and then they had to roll survival checks to start sort of escaping and all that jazz. It turned into an encounter, but like you can only do that once, and then it's not fun anymore. So I get it, James. I get it. Yeah. I had a couple of quick segments. So last week we promised a fellow listener that we'd talk about a one-shot that I designed for him. And I felt like if now's a good time, I can get into it briefly. I know we're a little over the hour, but I'll try and make this quick. Effectively, this was called it's a one-shot I designed called the Amulet of Cricket. And I took some inspiration from, I believe it's called the Black Road, which is one of those Adventures League sort of mini adventures or one-shots that got released a while back, probably in conjunction with Storm King's Thunder, but feel free to correct me on that. I'm not 100% sure. Where it basically was about crossing the Anarok Desert. And I took that concept, I added a second part to it, and obviously changed a lot of the details of it. And at the very end, put a tomb. So the basic premise of this one shot is that you've been hired to retrieve an artifact of some significance from the tomb of a ancient pharaonic princess called Kirket. But she had been cursed in her life by a sort of jealous overseer that was wanting to usurp her power and take over the throne in an obviously Egyptian-inspired setting to basically just curse her so that she couldn't return, and her amulet was the only item that held the power to return. So a lot of this is to the friend and player who asked for me to go into detail. Honestly, a lot of it came from inspirations of wonderful pre-existing media about ancient Egyptian one-shots. You guys are, I think, fans of The Mummy from at least the 99 version. Yeah.
Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. Yes, correct.
Yes, Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. There's a lot of different versions, and many of them are good, but 1999's The Mummy stands out, and its sequel, but not the other sequel. So yeah, we got asked to just go into it, like how did we came up with the concept. I think it was a one shot that I had originally designed to be between 4 and 6 hours, and ended up taking like 8+ hours because we got involved. And to his credit, the player who reached out about this, they were one of the very first clients I ever had for Roll Dark. It was the very first house call I made, and I think it was the second or third in-person game I had run for non-friends, and they made me feel very welcome at their home. So it was a lovely time overall. I remember us having a great night well into the evening, stayed longer than I should have, but until we got to the end. And basically, between taking the idea of a desert trek to reach a sort of buried ruin, or a half-buried ruin in the sand that had been recently uncovered by shifting storms, and the road to get there where they face some, I think it was jackalwares or maybe gnolls on the way there. And I've run it a few times since. But then the tomb itself was just a map that I found online that I copied in person and changed a few of the details and added a few puzzles and traps into it. Basically anything that any good DM would do, but it was a memorable experience and a lot of fun. So it was. I haven't played it in a long time, and having that question brought up has made me kind of want to revisit it and see what I need to update with it, because I'm sure it needs it. I think the titular villain at the end was the mummy itself, but not of Kirket, who is a young pharaonic sort of princess, but rather the mummy of the high priest that had tried to usurp the power. So good times, good fun. I love ancient Egyptian stuff, and thank you for your question. What about you guys? Any one shots that you remember fondly?
I have one that I've run a couple of times called The Beast of Deep Drift that I am working on writing up, actually, very, very slowly. That's essentially sort of like a frozen, isolated town where it seems like maybe werewolves are preying on the town, and then it turns out that oh no, it's something much worse.
What is much worse? That might be confused for a werewolf. It's a werebear. Okay.
It's a lukuru. No, I can't do a French accent, so that's edit that out.
Yeah.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Don't spoil it, James. We gotta play it clearly, because now I'm curious. I want to know what you have in store, because you always have good twists. So yeah.
I did a one shot for a stag do fairly recently, which was a lot of fun. It began with a wedding between a sort of elemental stag, guardian of the forest, and a celestial doe, which roamed the plains of the sort of non-forest, the plains where all the mortal folk lived, and it was designed as a wedding to seal a union between the more wild folk and the more civilized folk, which was, of course, handily disrupted by an invasion of bullywugs, which were merely a distraction to capture a member of the wedding party and whisk them away for an alternate purpose. And yeah, that was a lot of fun, because they fell for it hook, line, and sinker. The bullywugs attacked. They threw themselves into it handily. Had no reason to look around and see if anything else untoward was going on. Let's just stop these things from ruining the wedding, and of course, that set up the adventure handily.
Nice.
I do like a bullywug. They're fun. They're fun creatures.
There's so many frog-like monsters.
Yeah. Rescale miniatures, bullywugs, was the miniatures I used, 3D printed. Nice. They're not called bullywugs. They've got a bayou-themed group of miniatures that they released. I'll have to send some pictures. Awesome. Cool. There's these little bullywug characters, and there's bullywugs riding big toads, which have smoking pipes sticking out of their mouths, and all the barding and saddlery and everything on them. They're awesome miniatures if you like bullywugs.
That's very, very funny. That's very cool.
Yeah,
there's a whole.
Sorry,
go ahead. Yeah.
The bullywugs are one of the. I don't have minis for bullywugs. I should, because I use them often enough. It's just all been online, but I really do need some bullywug miniatures. So I'm gonna.
There you go. There's a whole bunch, I think, that got released with the WizKids packs because of the there's a beginning bullywug adventure in Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is ridiculous and very whimsical and very fun. They've always the look of them has always kind of been a joke, especially in the 5th edition art, because they look just so simplistic and frog-like, with their eyes looking in different directions. It looks rather silly, and then to just slap on a frog body. But if you think about it, there's a lot of toad and frog inspired creatures, and I keep coming across more of them. There's obviously the slotty constantly get compared to toad or toads. There's the bullywugs. There's a new creature that I came across. I think it's from some of the expanded materials. It's not third-party content though, and I forget exactly what it's called. There's the grung as well from One Grung Above, and they make an appearance in TOA. But this other one was like a race of like 4 foot tall net and spear using frog-like creatures that were a little bit more like not toad-like but frog-like specifically, and they were good jumpers. I'll have to remember it for the next time. But yeah, really a lot of those kinds of things, a lot of frog-based monsters. There's the oh my god, I'm forgetting all the names. The creature, the Banderhob that has a little bit of lore. Yeah, with hags.
Froghemoth, did you mention the Froghemoth?
No, the Froghemoth, yep. Or the Froghemoth, yeah, depending on how you like to say it. Yeah.
Froghemoth. I like that more.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, Damien, you shared the link to the rescale miniatures. This is some cool looking stuff. I'm looking at their dinosaur ones. These are awesome.
Yeah. They've done a lot of dinosaurs. I spend a lot of time looking at models now that I have a 3D printer, so I see a lot of cool stuff. Very cool. I would be remiss if I didn't very quickly mention my Vecna game has started. Thank thank you everyone that joined that with me on Tuesday this week. I am full now. We have a full house and looking for grand adventures. And then you may or may not have seen Fallout is live. We had a taster session that was very successful. And I think we may still have some places available for that. I'll confirm, but that's going to be on Thursdays starting next week. So message me if you're interested in joining a Fallout campaign.
Nice, rock on. Yep, I also just got started with Vecna. We are on officially. We just did session 1 this week. We had session 0 before that. So, yeah, it's a great group. Also, thanks a lot for joining, everyone, and looking forward to our ridiculousness. They even had a first combat encounter, which is almost over. We'll end it as we pick up the next one. So, more to come on that, but no spoilers, of course, for anyone hoping to run.
Very nice. Well, if there's a ton of people expressing interest in Vector, then I may pick up a third Vector game.
Could be fun.
Because I'm pretty keen on running it.
Get ready to go down that rabbit hole of the changes you need to make to it.
Oh, I'm just coming straight to you, JC.
Yeah, sure.
But can I have all the sublog?
I'll put it all on Google Docs, and you can take it from there.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Weird.
Well, I think that is us done for another week. I have a tale from the table that I will save for next time.
Nice.
After, hopefully, we have a special episode coming for you in the meantime.
Yes, and hopefully we'll have Rob back at some point in the future.
At some point.
Hopefully in the next one.
If he finishes Mass Effect, he's allowed back on the podcast. Those are the rules.
That's the rule. That's the rule.
Yeah, this was us kicking him out, definitely. Not him busy with anything else. Cool. Awesome.
Great. Well, thanks, guys.
Indeed. As always, a pleasure. And we'll catch you in the next one.